All right, welcome to Andale week of the Coaches Show. Finished off Nickerson last week, and once again, Austin McNorton, voice of the Greenbacks, head coach of the Greenbacks, Brent Holting. Thanks for joining me, guys. Always a fun week coming off a win, and a big win we did at Nickerson. But now we've got the task of Andale coming up, and we'll get into that, but let's talk a little bit about that sure. Nickerson win first, 55-14 Greenbacks. They looked good. Tough to tell what that means against an opponent like Nickerson, but it doesn't hurt to have those games on the schedule every now and then to kind of catch your breath, to get everybody healthy and take a break. So what were your thoughts of that game?
We talked all week. Obviously, we knew we were favored. Kids aren't dumb. They can see the scores throughout the year. But we talked about, hey, do we want to win a league title, outright? Obviously, we clinched a share, but do we want an outright one? Do we want to win in a game that we just go through the motions and looking back on it like, oh my gosh, we played terrible, but we still won that game. Like, we don't want to do that. And if we want to get to where we want to go, it's about us. It's not about who we're playing really anyway. It's about, are we being the best we can be? And I was really proud of our kids. We came out, we had, few 3 and outs right in a row. We scored touchdowns on our first 3 plays, and that kind of efficiency obviously is pretty big. We scored 55 in the first half, and our first team offense ran 19 plays. So anytime you can score 55 points in 19 plays and I mean,
yeah, you say it like it happens a lot. Anytime you can do that, I can't ever think of that type of efficiency.
Well, I think we scored 60 on Larned in 17.
That would have been my second guess.
Yeah. Wow, it didn't feel like that. That's kind of so. Coach, you talked to Cody and I in like week 0 about how you guys had the target on your back this year to repeat as league champs, and you did it. You accomplished that goal. How does that feel?
I'm proud of our kids. I think it's awesome. We talked about it to our kids after the game. I'm so proud of this group of seniors because, coming in their freshman year, it wasn't easy. And to be quite honest, they got kicked around a lot in JV, their freshman and sophomore year. And to see the work that they've put in and the way they've grown as leaders and as young men and the way we, kind of dominated the league this year, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't know if we had a whole lot of close games. I think 14 was our closest. And that's 2 years in a row we've done that. That's a feather in their cap, and that's something, like I told them post-game, that's something that no one can ever take away from you. That banner's always going to be up there. You're always going to be able to go back in a prize gym and look at 21 and 22 and say, we won those 2 league titles back-to-back years. And I think that's special. Anytime you can say you're the best team in your area, in your league, I think you're gunning for that every year because those are the people you see a lot. Those are the people you interact with a lot. And I think it's a point of pride thing. So really proud of our kids to come out and do that, especially knowing this year we had to work that much harder. Right. We weren't going to sneak up on anybody. We got everybody's best shot, Heston, Hoisington, all of those teams, and our kids were able to take care of business. And so special group of kids and really proud of them.
I probably should have done some homework before this on my next question here, but how many in your previous coaching jobs, how many of them have you carried a team from freshmen to seniors? How many 4-year tenures have you had before this job?
As a head or an assistant?
As a head or both.
Just head. I've only done Linden here, and I was at Linden for 5 years, and we were fortunate to win 4 league titles there my 5 years, and then obviously won 2 in my 4 here.
So you've kind of experienced that, taking a group from freshman to senior, and that's why I want to talk. You talked about it a lot last week, and just all throughout this season. this group was here when you got here. Right. They were the ones that bought into your system and even the whole new system 2 years ago.
Right.
But how, as a head coach, how special is that? I know every class is special, but that first one that you kind of inherit and take through 4 years has to have a little more
and I think,
impactful, like you said, not meaning, but just
you just get to know them better. You're not that we don't know, and I spend a lot of time, I think, hopefully trying to get to know our kids outside of football, every class. But I think, when you're with them 4 years and as much time as we spend together, as much as we do in the summer, lifting weights and other team activities and team camps. And I think that was a lot of fun. We were able to go do that again this summer because with COVID and all that, we hadn't been able to do that the last few years. Those bonding time and all the time you get to spend outside of that. And then, in my job is with weights, those kids are not just with me 1 year because I'm teaching American history or something. Their junior year, I have them every year. And so spend a lot of time with those kids. And so you get to know them really well. And it's a great group of kids. And what I've been proud of is knowing them as freshmen, kind of how far they've came in terms of, and I've talked about them ad nauseum, but Carson Hamey has just stepped up so much vocally
You've mentioned his name multiple times when we
from
talk.
Freshman to senior. Easton's been much more vocal lately. Johnny, those kids, it's amazing. You go from their freshman to their senior year, how much they change and grow up and mature. And I think that's the most special part is winning with them. Anytime you can win with kids, and same with last year's class and then this year's, it's special doing it together, knowing how hard you've worked to get to that mountaintop, so to speak, of the league anyway. I think that's special because you put in so much work and you've seen how much work they put in. You're there every day, seeing how hard they've worked and to see that pay off, because there's 9-10 teams in our league and only one can win a league title, in anything or say they're undefeated and all that. And that was us. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, it is.
Very special. And Coach, going back to the Nickerson game, so what are some games? Because Cody mentioned, it might be tough to take away some things from that. So what are some things that you've taken from that to apply now to this important week of practice?
And you talked about, it's sometimes hard. Obviously, up front, they weren't what we've been seeing. Mm-hmm. But once again, it doesn't matter. Take basketball. You can be guarded or wide open on a three. You still got to make it. We made the plays we had to make. Like I said, we were super efficient offensively. We were running some stuff we hadn't ran in a while just to maybe practice it a little bit. And so I thought our kids did a great job with that. And I think the big thing was the maturity was we preached, don't come out dead, don't come out. Because that's,
it's easy to do in a game like that.
You're dealing with 14, 18-year-old kids. It's really easy to do when they see, hey, man, they got beat 108-0 a few weeks ago. And our kids came out focused. And I thought really we flew around, we hit people. We were physical on defense. And so I thought that's the takeaway there is we did what we were supposed to do. We didn't treat it as something else. If you remember last year when we had to sew it up, we allowed 20 points in the first half on them. And now we scored a bunch. I think we scored 47 or 50, but we allowed a bunch of points. We weren't playing very sharp. In the second half, we shut them out, kind of came out. But this year, we came out, took care of business early, often the whole first half. Then we were able to get the rest the whole second half, which was good.
You talked about some of the new things that you guys did there at that Nickerson game. We saw Drake getting the carry from about 13, 14 yards out. We saw the ghost play, which we called right this time, finally.
Got it.
The last two times we've gone crazy on the radio. Yeah. I would say Austin, not me, but it was not the ghost play. But
that one was the ghost play.
But you had mentioned that that play with Drake. You almost ran that more just to have another set of officials get eyes on that. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, they told us we got a ruling that it was really close when someone's on the line and they're an ineligible number, they have to turn their back to the line of scrimmage to be able to get the ball. Is the ruling, and we were trying to turn him. We were going straight, and we'd had a couple people. Colin Wilson had looked at it, Eric Timish had looked at it, and the state had sent something that they have to turn their back completely. And so what we started doing is spinning him. So just pivoting him back out and getting the handoff, and we wanted to see how it looked in game action. We know practice is a whole different deal no matter how many times you practice it. So we wanted to see how that looked in game action because the timing hits a little bit differently. His angles, where his eyes are, he's got to get his eyes right after he spins. That way to make sure it was legal anytime we did it. So that's why we ran that, and we ran it. He's been begging to run it not on the goal line to see if he could run a long one in. Couldn't quite get there.
Oh, he about did.
Run,
is that a play with his, misdirectional as your offense is? Is that one that you before game have to almost talk to officials about, or do you don't say, hey, this could be coming up, keep an eye out for it?
Oh, we honestly we try to warn them about a variety. You've seen several times. In the Halstead game, I remember, the official came up twice and said, "Man, I blew it. My eyes were on the wrong thing," even though you told me. Because we talked to him. I think the big thing we always say is make sure you know who has the ball before you blow the whistle dead. Because there's a lot of times they'll think someone has the ball and is getting tackled in the middle of the field and, someone else is running. We had that happen at the Nickerson JV game on Monday. We ran the ghost play against them and it was awesome. Caden Ludwig was running down the field and their corners were standing there looking and he was running right by them and they had no idea he had the ball.
Well, I know exactly how they feel. There's some plays that we're going.
I had no idea who had it. Yeah. I had no idea on the ghost play who had it.
And Adam Uni ran it in. Yeah.
We got that after the game.
Yeah, it took us about 5 minutes to get a confirmation coming from one of our field reporters.
And so, I think that's the big thing we warn them about is our shift that we're a little unconventional the way we line up. Everyone will be eligible. And then, just make sure you know who has the ball before you blow it dead.
Coach, how valuable was it on Friday night to get some of those young guys' experience, but importantly on your defense without J.R. and limited Martinez? How valuable was it to get guys like Noah Riley more experience, Tate Wilson back at the safety spot, and some of those guys more involved in the defense coming up for the number one offense in the state?
And, Noah's played a lot this year. And Tay, especially, that poor kid, we've bounced him around. Tay's kind of our jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. We've bounced him around a lot wherever we've needed him. So it was good, I think, for him to settle in, get reps there for a week. Anytime he can get more reps somewhere, I think that's better for you instead of moving all over because, everywhere you go, the responsibilities are way different. He's kind of settled in offensively at blocking back lately, but then defensively, he's kind of been our, hey, this guy's hurt, or hey, this guy's hurt, or hey, we've got this one, and this look, we want to move you here. So Tay does a great job with that and moving him all around. But I think anytime you can get a rest before you play a team like Andale, and don't get beat up as physically the week before, like we had been for 5 weeks in a row, because we were pretty beat up after the Smoky game. And then I think also it's fun. It's fun to have those kids on the sideline cheering on those younger kids getting a ton of experience on Friday nights, because there's just something different about Friday nights. I think anytime you can do that, it bodes well for the future of your program once they've seen it and kind of understand, what it's about, what it takes. I think anytime you can do that, it leads to good things in the future.
We talked about some of the plays and some of the things we saw Nickerson that were new or that we hadn't seen in a while. Something else that we hadn't seen, and we talked about it a little bit in the post game. And for anybody that either left early or wasn't watching the stream, I thought it was neat. Both teams came into a huddle midfield after the game. Coaches said some words, and we'd seen a lot of that this year with just the tragedy that Nickerson's had to go through with the Jones family, where that level of sportsmanship has just been shown everywhere in the state. But I thought that was just a neat moment that we don't see too often between two teams after a ball game.
Yeah.
Didn't know if you could just speak a little bit about, kind of what that was about or what was said or what that
coach
message
and I
was.
talked before the game and said we wanted to do that. And he talked about it. He said, hey, can I say some words to your kids? And, hats off to Nickerson. They're really classy staff. And hats off to our kid. That's one thing I want to plug, because I don't think it gets, we talk about winning and losing a lot in here. And obviously there's bigger things at play. You talk about Ava and what happened to her, but I was really, really proud. I mean, just as proud as I was for the league title and stuff. Not only did the officiating crew came up after the game, they approached me and said, hey, we just want to tell you we enjoyed you guys more than we've enjoyed any team we've covered all year. Not only did your guys play really hard, and that's a really good football team. They were fun to watch. They said they would hit the heck out of somebody, and they would pick them up. They didn't talk. They didn't back talk us. They just played football. They were really classy, so we wanted you guys to know that. And then Nickerson's coaches said the same thing to us after the game. They're like, man, you guys are the classiest team we played all year. You got great kids. And I think as a coach, anytime you hear that makes you prouder than anything, knowing that your kids do the right thing and play the game the right way. So I'm really, really proud of our kids for that, especially when you're playing someone that is down a little bit. It's easy. Sometimes it's easy to be a bully in those situations. Mm-hmm. But I was really proud of our kids for doing what they were supposed to do on the scoreboard, but being class acts. And these kids are class acts. They're great kids. Very, very fortunate to have them.
Yeah, and that's good. As a community member, that's nice to see. That's good to see. That we've got kids that are getting those kind of words.
It goes
said
to that
about
culture
them
thing you were talking about.
Yeah, and that's where it starts. Is kind of that culture, that you've instilled and kind of built up over these last 4 years. So yeah, congrats to you and all the kids there that that are representing
and I've got a great
the Greenback
coaching staff.
Nation.
Yeah, I got a great coaching staff too. They do a great job, and our kids know that that's important to us, and I think what's important to you, kids want to do well and do what you ask, and they know we talk all the time about doing things the right way, being good people, and winning or losing with class, no matter what we do, and these kids they're just great kids. I mean, and that's once again, that's not just that's not a reflection of me. That's a reflection of I have a great coaching staff. They're awesome at instilling those values. They're great men, great fathers. Except for Coach Brown, not yet. Coming, Coach Brown. But they're great people, and then we have great kids, and we have great families that raise those kids. And when you have all of that combined, that's when great stuff happens, and we do.
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's get on to some
week.
awards there.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see how well we went. I would guess we got
trying to
hit
remember.
stick of the week.
That one I thought was pretty obvious.
Yeah, it was
It
on
was.
our
We
side.
wrote it
Probably
down
considered
Johnny
immediately.
one.
played like 2 plays on defense. And he made it worth it.
Oh yeah, he made.
Yeah, he tattooed that kid.
Yeah, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
Johnny
Yep,
on
we
the
wrote that one
kind
down
of floating
instantly.
screen pass that
Yeah,
they
that-
just left
it's the
up
deal.
there
You
a
don't-
little too long.
You don't run a screen pass to Johnny's side and not block him. That's,
No.
that's probably not going to
That is kind of hilarious. You mentioned that though. He only played like 2 plays
Yeah.
on defense, and
No,
one of them
he's-
was
well, he
play
was
the
keyed
game.
up. He's like, go in. And, we were trying to save his ankle and and Johnny's keyed up and ready to go. Like, he's going to pull the trigger on something. Like, he's a quick twitch guy.
Yeah, that was
And,
a nice hit.
He is a hitter.
It was.
For his size, he will hit the heck out of you. And
That's awesome.
It was a great hit. Picture perfect.
Yeah,
you know,
it was.
one
We've seen a
tackle.
couple of those this season.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So hit stick Johnny. Special teams. Anybody steal it from Adrian this week?
Yeah, you know what? We actually did because one of our other hit stick candidates I thought was worthy of it, and he had a couple blocks, but James Baker had
Okay.
a couple great blocks on punt returns. We don't always reward that as much as we probably should. I thought he hustled his butt off, had some great blocks and a few punt returns. He had it before Johnny did. I mean, he really hit a guy on a punt return. It was a great hit. It was just, Johnny obviously had a really good
I thought
one.
I saw Barrett Bolin with a big hit on a
And
kickoff
Barrett
too
had
early.
Barrett
did.
had a good
Yeah,
one
he
too.
did.
It just
Yeah.
didn't wrap up.
Yeah.
But no, Barrett did too, and he's doing some good things. But yeah, I thought James Baker played that way all game and on special teams, so he got our special teams player.
All
There we
right.
go. Let's see. Who did we gave MVP to?
Carson.
Did we? Or did we give it?
Justice.
We gave it to Justice.
Oh, we did give it to
we gave
Justice. Yeah, we gave it to
2
Justice.
catches, 2
You remember.
touchdowns.
Yeah, we did give it to
I
Justice.
did. Remember you said that. And
Now, it could have
Justice
easily went to
deserving.
some other players.
Could
but-
have. We gave it to Carson. I'm proud of his leadership. Now Justin had a great game, but there's not a whole lot of times you have Carson ran for 2 touchdowns, he
Right.
threw for a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown.
Yeah, he kind of.
That's why we debated him. Yeah, that's why
Right.
we debated him.
Right,
but
he
yeah.
did the touchdown cycle.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, he's worthy. I'm really proud of that kid and how far he's came leadership wise and the stuff he's done. So, I thought Carson had a great game.
I thought, looking at the stats, that not any Greenback had more than 5 carries.
Right.
That's crazy. 55
that
points on
right?
the board.
Yeah.
All those total yards,
And I think we had both. I think
I
3
think
of them had
3
over 80
pass-
yards rushing
yeah,
too.
yeah,
And
so
Johnny
just-
had over 80 yards rushing on 3 or 4 carries. So did Carson. And the
yeah,
Max
we've
had-
talked about
Max
that
had over 100
before.
on 5.
Just how
Efficiency.
spread out that that talent is, and those weapons are There's not
Justice
one you
had
can
80
key
some
on. Yeah,
on 2 catches.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Practice player of the week. Move on to practice player of the week. Who do we got there?
Kid, I tell you, a kid that's really been playing hard. And I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Really does a great job for a scout team. Brings it every day. And Caden Ludwig, he's really shown. He's a kid. What I love to see on young kids, he's a freshman for us, is coachability and doing the right things. And man, he has really improved on. And Caden, if you tell him something, he tries his very best to do it. When we talk about improvement, a lot of footwork, stuff like that, what you're reading as he's a linebacker and a blocking back. And I think he's really came a long ways, and he's a kid that always jumps in. We never have to ask him to jump in on any scout team, anything in practice. And I think Caden does a great job with that and very deserving this week.
All right, now moving on to Andale. I wish I had some John Facenda, dun dun dun,
Dun, dun,
voice, to
thunder,
to head into
lightning,
this
and-
Andale week. How do you pivot from a game like last week, Nickerson, and now it's like you said, celebrate that league title, but Saturday morning it's Andale week. What does that mean?
That's a big game. It's obviously going to be one of the marquee games in the state. They're Andale. I mean, they're what I think I saw this week. They have the 3rd longest winning streak in the nation. 43, 45 games.
45,
45 games. That's crazy impressive. Obviously, one of the top streaks in Kansas history, and they deserve every bit of it. They are the gold standard program right now in Kansas, in NEA, in terms of within their community, within their classification. They're the gold standard. They do things the right way. They play really hard. I mean, that's the thing when you watch them on tape, scheme, anything else, man, they play hard every single play. They have great scheme. They're obviously really well coached. They've worked in the weight room. You can tell that. They're not overall big. They don't have a bunch of 280 pounders. They have a bunch of guys.
I might disagree with overall big. I've seen some pictures of some of
They're,
those kids.
they're
and
strong.
yeah, it looks like
yeah.
Dwayne
Their
Johnson.
arms are big.
Yeah.
Their arms are big.
But no, and they've done work in the weight room. But they get after you. They get after you, and they have 11 guys that can run the football every single play. So to me, that's exciting to play a team like that. You know, you're going not just against, oh, hey man, this team may be good enough to win a state title. You're saying, hey, this is a generationally good team. That's fun. That's a game you're going to talk about.
Right, you get a chance to bust up a dynasty.
Right. Like that's a game you get to talk about the rest of your life. Like, yeah, that team, we played them right in the middle of maybe their best team ever. You know, or most people are saying their best team ever. And they've had a lot of really good teams. And this senior class is incredible. And they got some juniors, sophomores mixed in with there that are really, really good football players. So I told our kids, you know, that's one of those games you just take your shot, hang loose, play your tail off, and let's see what happens. You know, let's go have some fun with it and see what happens.
So what are some of the things that you're kind of keen in on? Like, how do you attack this schematically against a team that I'm assuming you've been kind of looking at their film throughout the course of the season? Maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
Time or two.
I would say kind of.
So how do you kind of attack that then, saying, boy, they don't make a lot of mistakes? What are some things you're trying to key in on and say, all right, this is what we have to do in order to hang with them, like you were saying?
Well, they're not going to make mistakes. I mean, they're that's just what they do, and they force you to beat them. I think I've seen, you know, and we have basically every film of theirs. I think I've seen them turn the ball over once all year, and that was on a long pass play where they got ripped at the end of the play. Kid came from behind him at collegiate. I think I've seen one turnover all year. Their starting defense, I believe, has been scored on once all year, and then their starting offense, I think, is punted once all year. So they're a formidable challenge.
No, we talked about efficiency earlier.
Yeah, they're pretty efficient.
They're pretty efficient.
You know, Cheney was able to keep it a little close. 32-0's been their closest game of the year. And Cheney did that last Friday by getting a couple first downs and then making them work at least. They didn't allow, instead of 1 to 3 play drives, which they pop off a lot, they made them at least do 8 to 10, 11, 12 play drives, made them move down the field on them. You know, now obviously Andale did it, but it took more time and they fought them. And I think you got to bring the fight. I think the big key with anything like them, like I told you, they get off the ball so hard up front. That's where it all starts. You've got to be able to at least get neutral on the line of scrimmage or win the line of scrimmage. You know, if you can win the line of scrimmage, then obviously you feel good about any game. And that goes for any game, but with them it's doubly important because they get off the ball so hard. You know, they have that really quick, they call it the robust offense or whatever. You know,
the old greenback offense. That's
up.
what we used to run back in my day.
Yeah, there you go. It's awesome.
That's
it's a great
awesome.
offense. They run up to the line.
You'll help me out on the
snap
broadcast then.
Yeah. There you go.
Belly right and belly left.
There it is. But they run up and they snap it so fast that they force you to, you know, you can't probably adjust, move as much as you would like to defensively and give different looks because they go so fast. And then they don't make mistakes. They trust each other. It's evident. They always trust everyone to do their job. You don't see two guys accidentally go after the same guy hardly ever because they all know who they're supposed to block. They know their assignments and they go up there and there's value in playing that hard and fast. When you know it and you play that hard, they do, that makes you a really, really good and really successful football team on top of obviously the natural athletes that they have. And they have, you know, some of the best athletes in the state on top of that.
You were talking about that. I've got some footage here of just that style of offense coming out of the huddle, snapping. I'm going to play it here for anybody watching. We'll get to see it firsthand Friday night.
Right.
But how do you let me switch that. How do you switch to or get your defense prepared where you don't have that time to react? There, we got a play in there. But, normally we'll see you guys come up to the line or any defense, and you're able to kind of read and shift around. This offense, if you're watching, you don't have that time at all to do that.
Right. They, like I said, you can't really switch sides a whole bunch. Strong or weak. Our kids are going to pick. We've told them you're going to be on this side. You're going to be on this side. Somewhat according to tendencies, stuff like that, and you stay there. That you don't have time to go anywhere else, and so you've got to get up and get ready. In practice, what we've been doing is, obviously scout team is not going to run it as fast. They've done a great job this week trying to give us looks, but what we do is go get them lined up, tell our kids what defense we're going to be in, and they're all facing us, and then we say turn, and they got to turn, get their hands down, and then the scout team's going to snap it within a second. So they've got to turn, get their bearings, get their hands down, and go. And I think that's what we're trying to do it the best we can. Talking about key coaching points, staying low, not getting driven off the ball. But yeah, you can't just stand there and wait for a scout team and think you have forever because you don't. So I think you got to really rush the pace in practice. And the more you can do that, the more it slows down, so to speak, and kids get better at it, get better at seeing it. So I think, it definitely presents challenges, especially when you're preparing on a short week.
Offensively, then, how do you attack that? Because you mentioned that it was a win for Cheney just to even get a first down. They've never allowed a touchdown on their first team defense.
I saw one.
They one touchdown.
One.
So
and that may be maybe two, but I think
It's
I
hard
saw
to sort
one.
their stats out.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you attack that offensively then of just saying an 8-play drive with points is a huge win?
Sure. Well, I think I think that's where you got to lean in. I told our kids the big deal is confidence. Against a really good football team, 100% of the plays are not going to go your way. And that's really any football game, but definitely against a good team. A lot of times if you're playing a really good team, you're just hoping it's 51 to 49% and you win the big ones. And so stuff's going to go wrong sometimes. That's just life. And so I think, we talked about today, even after practice, like you have to have the confidence if you make a mistake or even if you make 2 or 3 mistakes in a row to come back and say, I'm really good and I'm going to make the next play. You can't start saying, oh man, that guy's really good over there. I think he's better than me. You can't do that. That's not how you can play. And you can't play football that way. You've got to have the confidence to step up and say, all right, I faced some adversity. Now I'm going to go get it. I learned from it and I'm going to be better for it. And I'm going to go make the next play. And I don't think you can look at the big picture. You just got to play that play, every single play. And that's what they force you to do. Your reads, your eyes, everything has to be right every single play. And then offensively, we can't have, oh man, I missed that. It's got to be, our execution's got to be on point every single play. And I think as a coach, it's fun in a way. They force you to execute at a high level, which is what we all aspire to. They force you to do that because of how good they are and how well coached they are. And so, our challenge is to meet that this week, to execute every play, to play our tails off, to play as hard as they do every play, and then to not get down on ourselves if anything goes bad, because bad stuff's going to happen, but so will good stuff. And we just got to keep stacking good things, and don't get too high. Conversely, if something good happens, just keep playing the next play.
And I feel like, with our front four on defense, we've got a bigger defensive front than maybe what they've seen that can clog some of that up, with Bourgeois and Drake and the Rector boys. And so we've got some size there. And then on the offensive side of things, we're not a team that when we've seen it through our stats and we've talked about it, we don't have one guy that gets 25 carries a game. Right. And you're like, we got to shut that guy down. It's not like we've got, a Voth from Cheney or, Wesley Fair from Collegiate, where you go into one of those games knowing that's the kid we got to shut down. Right. We're pretty spread out with our weapons. I think we, use those weapons the way we've used them all season. And like I said, it's a Friday night. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and that's the plan. And then you hope, the ball bounces your way. We like we've talked about, and we've had some games where it did our way, and then, the Cheney game where it didn't, where every break went against us. So you hope you get some of those breaks, and those are things that just happen. You can't count on them. And then, like you said, I think the big thing is getting everyone established, getting it to where they can't play downhill against any one person, any one schematically thing. Is we've got to out leverage them like we try to do every week with our offense. We always talk about, and same with us against them. You're going to give up something. Just what are you going to give up? Every defense has a weak point per se. Obviously great players make up for that, and great schemes, hide a lot of it, whatever. But you can never cover everything perfectly like you'd like to. In their offense against our offense, whatever. So our job is to find that and pick at it, and then when they adjust, and then hopefully we adjust to what opened up with their adjustment. And I think then you just got to execute. That's what, like I said, they force you to execute, and then I think we've got to get the ball to all of our playmakers, hopefully get them the ball in some space, and then sustain some drives and get some big plays. I think big chunk plays will be a big deal because they're going to be hard to go down 3 yards at a time on. But big, if we can rip off some big chunk plays, that really helps you flip field position and make it to where, it's a lot easier to score points when you get those big 20-plus yard plays.
How valuable, and it has been all season long, but in a game like this, will the Greenback crowd be? It's senior night, last guaranteed guaranteed home game of the season. How valuable will they be when you're going against a dynasty like this and say, you truly are the 12th man on Friday night?
Yeah, we want to bring a lot of energy. Obviously, it's going to be a huge crowd. I anticipate a huge crowd. Like I said, it's one of the biggest games in the state. 7-0 versus 6-1 team. I think we're, obviously they've earned their spot. We're trying to, but I believe we're one of the very best teams in the state. And I hope our kids believe that. And it's going to be huge. Andale's going to travel really, really well. It's going to be a huge crowd on Friday night. So first you manage those emotions, and then secondly, you use it to fuel you and use that crowd to fuel you and bring you energy. Because we've told our kids, you're going to have to match their energy. They're probably deeper than us. So you're going to have to dig deep for 4 quarters and match that energy and play hard every single play. You just can't take plays off against them. So I think that's where the crowd comes in, and that energy, adrenaline's the most powerful drug in the world. Just keep giving that energy and that adrenaline, and that'll fuel you through the 48 minutes of the game.
All right, Coach. I think we've got a question here from one of our super fans. I think it goes back a little bit to that offense that Andale runs.
Me.
Yeah, we'll listen to it, and then you can help me sort it out because I was a little confused listening to it pre-show. So this might take a panel to sort through. So this is from Chad Poor. I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Coach Holting. This is Eric Timish Liggett here. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Hey, just wanted to check and see. I know that one of the theories in a game like the upcoming game against Andale is to try and slow the game down and use up a lot of the play clock as much as you can to keep the clock running and prevent the amount of time that Andale can have the ball on offense. And so I'm curious if that's part of the strategy. If it's not part of the strategy, I mean, I don't want you to tell anybody what the strategy is, but in those situations, how do you get your team, who is typically used to just running a play, getting the call, going up, running the next play, and not focusing on that, to maybe focus on slowing the game down but still keeping up the intensity? And is that something that coaches are able to do, or teams are able to do, or is it a difficult process?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I think that all goes with game flow too. How much time is there left in the half?
Wait, first of all, what did you take from that? I wasn't sure what the question was.
I took away that, how are
we going to work the play clock?
Use the play clock.
How
do you with 14 left? Wait till you get to.
How do you prevent them from being on the field, but yet continue to have that same kind of intensity that you offense play with?
Thank you, Chad. By the way, thank you, Chad. We appreciate the call in. Super fan, Chad.
Super fan, Chad Poor. I think the big thing is you got to sustain drives. Here's the deal. If you tell me we're going to score in one play, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The goal is to score touchdowns. So I think you go in like that. But, yeah, I think you're smart about it. You don't run 2-minute hurry up. Their offense is obviously very, very dangerous. We're going to pick our spots where we play with tempo maybe, and we're going to pick our spots where we play a little slower, depending on what game pace dictates what we have to do, because we're going in there to win a game. And that's the thing you got to look at is we're going in there, and I told our kids this, I don't think you can ever go in not believing in yourself to win a game. You've got to believe that you can win every single game that you play. And that's why losing hurts so bad. If you don't think you can win, then losing, it doesn't hurt as bad. But when you believe and you put in enough work, it hurts like heck to lose. And so I think that's the attitude you go in with. And then play clock is always what's the game situation for the opponent? How are we going to manage that? Are we going to slow it down a little bit? Are we going to speed it up a little bit? And I think that's something that we as coaches, you send in the play a little later, or you send it in a little earlier, stuff like that. No huddle, whatever. I think that always gets dictated by where the game's at the time.
How you mentioned the amount of depth that they have. So how do you try and manage your roster to be able to play a full 4 quarters against one of the most physical teams? How do you kind of manage your health and your energy and your effort playing against a team who you said has one of the best efforts?
Sure. They have depth and effort, so we're just gonna have to match it. I mean, it's just toughness. And that's what it is.
Right. You got to work with what you got.
We have what we have. We have a really good first, 11 with a little bit of depth. We don't have as much as they do. So we're going to have to, it's the old, you're going to have to dance with who you brought. And I feel very confident in our kids. The big thing is they're going to have to dig deep within themselves. The human body will go so much farther than the mind will tell it can go, and that's where I think the crowd, stuff like that. And all of a sudden you forget about it. You forget about the pain, the soreness. You forget about all of that stuff if you just live in the moment and the emotion of the moment and just play your butt off every single play. And that's all you concentrate on. I play my butt off that play. You don't think about being tired. You don't think about anything else. I'm going to play my butt off the next play, and go play your butt off the next play. And until you just are so exhausted, you say, I need a breather, and then we'll get you a breather. We'll sick someone in. But I think that's the way you approach it. That's the way our kids have to approach it. And I think that's part of the fun of Friday night is it's going to take our very best effort, and we know that. So let's go give it, and there's courage and daring in that, because it's hard. You got to, it's one of those, I've talked to the kids about this. I've given them this speech before, one of those dare to be great moments. I've told them before, and I've used this pregame speech a couple times in my career here. There's, life, we know life gets pretty ordinary when you get out of high school, besides your, maybe you get married, birth of your kids, stuff like that. There's not too many dare to be great situations. Well, Friday night, we have a lifelong memory, a dare to be great moment. And so go seize it. Go be the best you can be. And no matter what happens, there's value and there's glory in that. Like, go dare to be great Friday night. Don't just settle for less than your best because you didn't think you had it in you. Go dare to be great and go be the best you can be, and then we'll see what happens, in 48 minutes.
I'm excited. You got me excited, Coach. And if there's any team that can knock off Andale, we know it's Pratt. We were the last one to do it. So I do think they have that hanging in their locker room still. So I'm not too worried. So. That's all right. That's all right. It's going to be a great crowd. I'm ready for it. I'm all finished up with questions, Austin, unless you got any more for Coach Holting here.
You can straight up tell me, I'm not answering this question if you want. But because I know coaches say, I only look to one game. I don't look ahead. But how do you say, okay, next week is an away postseason game. How do you say we have to be 100% healthy and ready to go for that game to get a postseason win?
I'm not even worried about it at this point.
I'm very curious about
we're
it.
on Andale.
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't even talked about it. I haven't even thought about it. To be quite honest, I haven't thought about anything. Our focus, Andale demands your full 100% attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
I'm ready. I'm ready
to go. It's going to be a good week.
I'm pumped.
Feel it in the air. It's going to be pink out night. So if you're out there, if you're coming to the game, it's pink out night. Anything else, check the links. We got radio
Senior
broadcast, senior night. We got
Right.
Greenback Athletics YouTube page. We'll be on there.
We're on 1290, by the way.
1290.
98.3 has Andale. So 1290
That's right.
is us. So both the radio stations will have the game, but one will, if you're a Greenback fan, there's one you'll prefer to listen to rather than the other.
There we go.
So
if you want to be entertained, obviously.
That's right.
Right. 1290 is the only way to go.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That is
Absolutely.
right. We do our best. So, all right. All right. Thanks for sitting down with us, Coach.
Thank
Good luck
you.
Friday night. It should be a fun one. Everybody get out there and root them on. That'll do it, guys. Thanks.